there, and we are back with Congressman Will Hurd this morning. Let me first talk about this tweet from the Supreme Leader of Iran. He tweets out basically saying, look, we don't want a war, but if there is a war, we're not going to show the picture. We don't want to get involved and worsen the situation here, but it is a graphic depicting a gun to President Obama's head. 3 days after we do this deal with Iran.
But here's the problem. This is par for the course. This is not a unique thing. This is something that the Supreme Leader has been doing for years. The day after the agreement was signed, he was speaking at a university talking about how we're going to continue to have to fight against the great Satan, referring to the United States of America. We can't trust the Iranians, and anybody who thinks we can is being incredibly naive.
So then why is the President and John Kerry so intent on making sure this deal goes through? The President, in no uncertain terms, has said, any challenges to this deal, I will veto.
Right. No, and we know, and that's why for us in the House and the Senate, we have to get enough of our colleagues to vote against this deal so that we can override a veto. This isn't a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is about the security of the world, and hopefully my colleagues realize that in a number of years, when their children and grandchildren say, did you do absolutely everything you can to stop nuclear Iran? I hope my colleagues are going to say yes.
All right, so let's talk about that for a moment, because there is an expectation out there that this is a done deal and that Congress won't be able to do anything. Give me the numbers. What do you need to see in order for Congress to actually have the power to reverse this?
Sure. So starting this past Monday, the clock started, and we had 60 days since then. We're going to need, if all the Republicans vote against this, we're going to need about 13 senators and 43 members of the House to vote against this deal. And what's really been interesting is my colleagues are really listening to both sides of the argument, trying to understand this. And the more they learn about this deal, the harder it is for them to support it, because some of the things are just outrageous.
What do you think about Chuck Schumer? It all does come down to him, doesn't it, as he enters his new role of Majority Leader?
He's a very influential person in the Senate. He's taking over the role as Majority Leader, and he's going to have a huge influence in how many of his colleagues are going to vote.
What are you expecting out of Schumer? We have not heard from him. Everyone's wondering, what is he going to do? What are you expecting?
Well, I wish I knew, but I'm hoping he's going to come out against this deal.
Of course. I mean, we'll see. So you do think there is a chance that Congress can actually reverse this?
I'm hopeful, and we're working every single day to try to convince our colleagues and the American people to speak up, because we need to hear from them. You know, I represent a very big part of Texas, rural area, and this is the single question I get asked at every event, every town hall, is what are we doing against Iran? And we need folks to speak up and talk to their congressman, talk to their senator, and say, please kill this deal.
Well, you know, we've got this clock ticking. As you said, it started on Monday, and yet now Congress is going on August recess. How does that play into things? Will you have an opportunity during the August recess to take the temperature of your colleagues?
Absolutely. I think this is a good thing, because everyone's going to be back in their district, barnstorming their district, and they're going to hear from very vocal constituents how they feel about this deal. So I'm hoping this is going to influence a number of my colleagues when we come back in September and start gearing up for taking this vote.
What was most troublesome to you about this deal?
That we truly believe that we can trust the Iranians, and that we think that they're going to follow through on this. You know, some of the sanctions relief that this is going to allow within the first 6 to 8 months, you know, the possibility of $150 billion going to the Iranians.
Right.
You know, that is 3 times their budget for the IRGC, which is kind of like their special forces and CIA together. You know, these are the folks that are exporting terrorism, and it's unconscionable that we're going to let that happen.
Yeah, and then there's also the idea that even if you want to trust the Iranians that they are not going to develop, you know, or that they're not going to use a nuclear bomb, who's to say they're not going to sell it to Hezbollah, to Hamas? I mean, they've been supporting terrorists
for almost 4 decades. And here's the deal. I would like to see diplomacy happen, but there have been no confidence-building measures between the United States government and the Iranian government that says we can trust them. And that's why we should walk away from this deal. And what the President and Secretary Kerry is going to say is that if we walk away from the deal, that means war. No, when we walk away from this deal, it should be continued financial sanctions against them, against the Iranians.
Congressman, we'll be watching. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Congressman Will Hurd joining us. Action on Capitol Hill this past week, facing a veto